You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humbled host, Herut, and I got the good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Peace, King. Never better, never better.
Good deal, man. Good deal. We're here at episode 10. Number of completion, man. It's a good milestone we're at, man. How you feel about that?
Brother, it's gonna be greater and greater later and later. When we get to that 100th episode, we're gonna look back at this as a marker to say, you know what, we made a whole multiplicity of the Osirian completion process from 10 multiplying times 10. So I said this is a perfect milestone to do what we're doing today, to talk about what we're talking about today, because it definitely deals with that number, that first number in 10.
Indeed. Before we go any further, let me just remind you that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group and Calipurusha Astrology. You can find Push It Forward Media Group at Push It Forward PUSHITFWD on Instagram, and you can find us. Go to our website at pushitforward.com, spelled the same way as our Instagram handle, and there you can find. You can come across this podcast. You can see some of the other video and film projects we got going on, like Veg Kingdom, which is a vegan food travel show concept that we're currently screening and kind of pushing out there. And we got some short films coming up real soon, so stay tuned to that. Brother Rock, could you give them some information about Calipurusha?
I definitely can. You can. There's three primary ways to get in contact with my person. First of which would be through IG, which is Shechem Ra on IG. Second would be on Facebook, again, Shechem Ra on Facebook. And then third would be Calipurusha Astrology on YouTube. Also, actually, there's a Calipurusha Astrology on Facebook as well. So either one of those mediums definitely can get a hold of me pretty quickly.
Good deal. So yeah, last show, man, it got a pretty good response. A lot of people really liked the angle and the different levels that we hit. When it came to wealth, we didn't just go over to mega rich. We took a quote unquote regular person and kind of just compared the levels. So it seemed like that got a pretty good response. How you feel about how that show came out?
Brother, I've heard the same. Nothing but love. One of the tests was trying to find out if SW would ever be revealed. I said, nah, that's a private matter for that individual. But nonetheless, the information remains the same. That the chart still holds valid. But they definitely wanted to know who SW was. I told them that wouldn't be possible. But definitely good feedback.
Yeah, they be careful what they ask for, man. That Chandra, she's fierce. So be careful what you ask for. Absolutely. On another level too, we had the the giveaway. So by the time you hear this, you all should have your charts, and that seemed to be a good success. A lot of people was very appreciative of that, and we thank you all for participating and being listeners and stuff like that, because we really we can talk about this all day, but it's good to have somebody to hear you when you talk about it. So we greatly appreciate that, indeed. So yeah, let's go ahead and as Brother Ra hinted at, us, coming up, doing this episode 10, we're gonna hit a real fundamental show, and a lot of people have been asking for something like this, and we're getting to it. We didn't what we don't want to do on this show, is to just like turn it into a class per se. You know what I mean? We kind of want to talk about the topics, almost like audio, articles, so to speak, and stuff like that. So for more like in-depth information, as Brother Ra put out there, that he teaches classes, he does consultations as well, but this show, it just give you, this is a supplement to anything else you're doing with that. You got your chart sitting there in front of you. You can see us talking about this, see if those things are happening in your chart, and the things that you're learning in his class, or any, the books that you're reading and stuff like that. This is a excellent supplement. You get to see it kind of in a real life application to it. But with that being said, today's topic, we're going to really hit on the core of your chart. The reason why this topic is the reason why your time of birth is so important. Without an accurate time of birth, it throws off you really, there's ways that you can find out information, of course, but it's it really 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 is essential to have that that accurate time of birth, so we can know your house structure and everything like that. And today we're going to talk about the ascendant, the first house of your chart. And this is pretty much, like I said, it's the foundation of your chart. The strength, the weakness of that first house, it kind of tells a lot about what's going on with you. And so I'm gonna let Brother Ra go ahead and give his spiel on the importance of the first house and different types of first house situations and different things like that.
No doubt. Well, Atefi said it very well. That's exactly what it is. The ascendant is the most important part of your chart. Without the ascendant, you really don't have much to substantiate with regards to the predictive side of astrology. And we just were going over this in class, explain to my students a lot of what the ascendant really means and why it's so crucial. And the ascendant is also called the rising in Western astrology. So you have different terminologies for the same word. The technical term for it in what we would call Indian astrology or Vedic astrology, Jyotish. The proper term, which is what it is called your Lagna. And your Lagna is spelled, it sounds like Lugna, but it's actually Lagna, Lagna, right? And your Lagna is, or your ascendant is, it's a trifecta of information, meaning that you can have a date of birth, and the date of birth will reveal a lot of information. Let me first say that. And that a date of birth will give you a good deal of information, right?
Yeah.
And, the date of birth will give you the placement of pretty much the majority of the planets, give or take, the moon would be the exception, right? Because the moon moves about 13 degrees, 20 minutes per day, right? So, your moon could shift from one sign to another, depending upon how that moon is placed for that day. But, you can even find what the moon sign is if you know what you're doing. It's fairly easy to do once you play with the chart enough and know how to find it. But the ascendant is very crucial in that the ascendant is based on three primary factors. Number one, of course, as I mentioned, your date of birth. That is the most, without the date, obviously, right? We wouldn't have very much information, but how many days of birth do we share with other people, right? I share it with Wilt Chamberlain and Lawrence Fishburne. We both have the same date of birth, right?
Yeah.
Very different in character, right? But our sun sign, and that's what the date of birth really is referred to in Western astrology. It's the sun sign. Oh, I'm Virgo, I'm Leo, I'm this and that and the other, right? Well, the sun sign is not so much important in this type of astrology. It is, because you do get some understanding of it. And maybe we'll do another show about what the sun sign kind of entails, because I know some people did ask about that. I know one of the brothers asked, what is your sun sign?
Yeah.
And like we talked about, this is not necessarily an instructional class, but we just want to touch on this because this is something that really you can take with you and really hone in your skills, right? And begin to play with it and test it and understand the fundamental reason why this is so crucial to astrology. I could tell you my sun sign, and it really doesn't tell you very much. It tells you some things, but it really doesn't tell you a lot. But the time of birth is so specific that let's look at it from this perspective. Let's say you're born in a city, right? I'm born in Denver, Colorado, right? And I'm born in Denver, right? I'm not going to tell you the date, the time, and all that, but let's just say I'm born in August, right? So I'm born in Denver in August on the specific date, right? Not very many people are born on that day, right? At that time. They might be born on that day, but that specific time is more or less refined to my individual person. Now, you've heard of what's the brother's name? Umar Johnson, right? Yeah, he's born almost at the same time. Almost at the same time on the same day, but in a different place, right? So we just kind of gave you some secrets, and that the date, right, is crucial. The time is crucial, but the place is just as crucial. And this is why. So we have 4 primary time zones in America, barring Alaska, barring Hawaii, right? Within the continental United States of America, there's 4 primary time zones, right? So 4 primary time zones. Basically, within those time zones, we have 4 different hours. Each time zone is an hour. But astrologically speaking, it takes 1 hour for the ascendant to move 15 degrees. Every 4 minutes is 1 degree. So 4 minutes of a chart can shift 1 degree of the ascendant. 1 degree will shift you in a major way, right? 1 degree between freezing and liquid water is just 32 to 33 degrees, right? That's 1 degree. Boiling between 211 between 211 to 212 is 1 degree, right? So 1 degree in your body, which is 98.6 degrees, 98.4 for some, 98.6 for others, depending upon your overall physiology, right? 1 degree up and maybe even 1.5 degrees, you're considered you have a fever, right? So 1 degree is significant, right? But 4 minutes is 1 degree. Well, if I change the time zone from California to Mountain Time, from Pacific Time to Mountain Time, that's 15 minutes. 15 degrees, right? Because 1 hour is 15 degrees. So that means that if I'm born even at the same time, but in a different time zone, it's going to be different, right? Going to be 15 degrees different. So this is why the time, the date, and the place is so crucial. And what we do in astrology is we actually begin to look at the conditions of birth, which is what the ascendant truly is, right? The conditions of birth is what the ascendant is, right? So I can see if your daddy was there.
Yeah.
I can see, remember we talked about Tupac, right? His ascendant is Aries, right? And I've rectified his chart pretty well. I wouldn't say it's a dead on, but I'd say it's pretty darn close, right? The moon is in the 12th house. Remember, we said the only way the moon is in the 12th house is if we have an ascendant, right? So the moon being in the 12th house, we know that moon is in Pisces. He's an Aries ascendant, right? Because the moon in the 12th shows us that the mother was going through some very shifting times during the birth, right? She was either in prison and hospitalized. In fact, funny story, just to kind of sidebar this, at my place of employment, right? I have a guy that he's one of our trainers, one of our department trainers, and I said, "Oh, he's into it." He thought he was into astrology until we had a conversation, and he said, "Oh, I'm not. I dabble, but I'm not proficient like that." But he gave me his time of birth, date of birth, and so forth. And I just looked at it real quick. I didn't really study it, but I said, "Oh yeah, your mother was hospitalized when you were born." And he said, "Wow, my mother had major surgery while she was pregnant with me." Right? I said, "There it is." Right? So, you can see these things, right? Well, the 12th house is hospitals as well, right? Hospitalization, right?
Yeah.
Automatically, but I only knew this because of his ascendant, right? So the ascendant is so crucial in that it becomes the core, like you said, of the chart. It's the pivot of the chart, right? Without it, the houses don't align properly. And here's another thing. Let's just say this. If I have your moon sign, that moon sign becomes what is called your Chandra Lagna. Your Chandra Lagna, right, is the ability for us to see things based on your emotional purview, your mental purview, how you filter reality around you. So the moon becomes another ascendant as well. So we can also see a lot of times, and even in fact in India, they'll say what your sign is. They say they're meaning or they're implying what is your moon sign, right? Not your sun sign. Like, we talking about what's your clan? Those of us that know what that is, right? We talking about your moon, right? So the moon has it's an ascendant in and of itself, but the specific ascendant, the ascendant that we get based on the date, time, and place is so crucial, and that it sets the construct of the chart all the way across, all the way through each of the specific divisional charts. All those things are set on that time of birth. The time of birth is when you entered into this physical plane, right? The ascendant shows how you entered. Did you enter during a storm? Was there fighting around you? Did your mother have a cesarean section? C-section? We can see all those things through the ascendant. Was the father present? Was the mother perplexed? Was the mother vexed? Was the cousins there? Were the brothers there? Mars in the ascendant, your brothers were present. If you have no brothers, right, then it's very well that your mother may have had a cesarean. Right? So these things can come to clear fruition, right? It can become crystal clear when you see Mars, Moon, Sun, Saturn in the ascendant. And then the context of life starts from that point, right? And that creates the rhythm and the theme of life for that person, right? So the ascendant means many things, right? It means your physiology, right? Your stature, your initial responses to situations. It really is the foundation and core of your personality, right? And what we do is we begin to synthesize this with the other points, major points of your chart, meaning the ascendant is your physical body, right? The moon is your mental body, your astral body, and then the sun is your causal body, or right, your soul's kind of disposition, if you will. And so we have that's actually called a Sudarshana chakra, where we actually take all three of those and combine and come up with a composite understanding of how you're built, right? But the ascendant placement is so crucial in that it dictates the other houses, right? It dictates the second house, the third house, the fourth house, and so forth. So without that, you really don't have a chart. You have a kind of a consensus, if you will, of what is going on. But you cannot predict without that ascendant. And some people say they can. I beg to differ, right? The other thing is that the ascendant degree is crucial, because the ascendant degree aligns your chart and your horoscope with a specific portion of what is called a nakshatra, right? And that nakshatra, or asterism, for those of you that may have heard it that way, right? That is another way that we really can pinpoint the theme of your life and how it comes out, how you manifest in real time with regards to how your personality is slightly different from others. You might be a Leo ascendant, right? And then you might be slightly different from another Leo, because that degree, that specific degree, locks you in to a whole lot more than just your sign, right? The other piece of the puzzle is the ascendant lord. So if we know the ascendant lord, we know the planetary energies that also govern you. And that planetary energy that goes to a specific house, to a specific sign, is also another way the personality is shifted or colored. Right? It's called your Lagna, which is a specific term. Your Lagna is another way we can begin to see, and anything that impinges on that ascendant lord, wherever it is, how it's placed, if it's retrograde, if it's in a combination of yogas, if it's with one of the nodes, if the ascendant lord is with one of the nodes, definitely you're going to have a very different life experience than many of us that don't have that, right? It's going to tell us where you are headed in life in a general sense, where you vibe, where you process things the most, where you integrate the most, with whom you integrate the most. The ascendant lord is that important as well. So we have the ascendant degree, the ascendant lord, where it's placed, how it's placed, where it's placed in the other divisional charts. All those particular arrangements are very specific, so that we can gain a clear, concise understanding of what is going on with your destiny. So, like I said, there's other types of ascendants. You have your Chandra Lagna, your Surya Lagna, or Sun Lagna, Moon Lagna, right? There's other types of ascendants called the Indu Lagna, and I think I mentioned that in the last show. The Indu Lagna is how we begin to see how your wealth is situated, how you process wealth, right? You have what's called a Ruda Lagna, right? A Ruda Lagna is it's a way that we count specific way. We count the number of houses. I'm not going to tell you how, but that's a whole nother show. I don't want to give a whole instruction behind it, but just know that the Ruda Lagna is how a Maya, or the perception of a person, is filtered into reality. Meaning that, how sometimes you see people, you initially meet them and you would get to know them and they're very different than what you imagined, right? That's what we see through the Aruda Lagna, right? I mean, there's other Lagnas. You have a Vigati Lagna, a Vernata Lagna, a Hora Lagna, a Pranatapada Lagna. There's all kind of Lagnas, right? And these are all specifics to understanding how you process different levels of reality. So it's not just the actual ascendant or the Lagna in the basic sense of the word, meaning we look at different Lagnas to understand how things situate in different perspectives throughout your chart. So the Lagna, or different Lagnas, are very important to understanding how astrology works, right? We have a Upapada Lagna, right? That tells about your marriage, right? It tells about your mate, the specific type of person that you will marry, how well you would do with regards to that mate, right? So, we have different Lagnas. The Lagna is a key way that we see various things. I mean, it's your complexion, It's how well you can heal, your vitality, right? Whether now it's like just, whether or not you bounce back from an illness, if you're accident prone, right? If you're prone to baldness, right? All those things are through the physiology. Well, if you wouldn't be here if you wouldn't have a body, right? So
Yeah.
the Ascendant is you can't do it without it, right? I mean, the body is the context of, people say, oh, the body is this and it's negative this, and that's a Western context because, you know, we as Africans understand that the body is, it's literally the height of creation, right? It's the creme de la creme. It's the point of creation that, it's the best thing on the planet is
Yeah.
the human body. It's a phenomenal machine. So, this is why the Lagna is so important, that we gain a great deal of understanding from this, right? And, without learning how to master that understanding of what that is, astrology then kind of takes on a Western, and feel. And the Western astrologers do use the Lagna, but you know how they situated?
Yeah.
They situated your sun sign as first, right? Well, your sun sign can't be first. It just can't be, right? Because again, many of us share, how many of us share the same sun sign? I mean, for 30 days, you share the same sun sign, right? So it's not that important. It's not that crucial. It's not that pinpointing. And it does have a lot of information in it. It does. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't, because it is a
Yeah.
Lagna that we look at. It is an ascendant that we take and factor in. But it's not something that you readily can see. That's why so many people say astrology doesn't work, right? Astrology, that stuff doesn't work. That you can't see anything with that stuff. Oh, just because your birthday, it gets a bad rap.
What's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson.
All right.
He did a whole spill on it, but the way that he did it was in his class, because he's an astrophysicist. So in his class, he just put out generic, kind of horoscope readings and was reading them to people, and just reading real general stuff. And he was like, well, does this sound like you? And then he grabbed another person, was like, hey, does this sound like you? And everybody was agreeing. And then he was like, see, astrology doesn't work. And I'm like,
you're not an astrologer, so you can't necessarily do that, right?
Yeah.
And let me throw this out there. There has been some studies, right? Now, let's also pretext this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to badger or beat this thing over and over and over again, but you have to really understand something here. Hellenistic astrology, right? Which is what Western astrology is, right? It's Hellenistic. If I really want to boil it down to something, it's Hellenistic. Most people don't even read Ptolemy's book, right? They don't even know about it. Like most astrologers that I know, Western astrologers have never read Ptolemy's book.
Yeah.
In Ptolemy's book, he says the ancient Egyptians were the ones that mastered this stuff. He said it, right? So if they mastered it, and he kind of borrowed from it, and then didn't lock in the keys to precession and the application of what we call an ayanamsha, or the shifting, the means that things shift within the heavens. And right now, tonight, maybe not now, because I'm sure it's already gone. You might still be able to see Saturn out there, folks. Saturn is probably well across the midheaven right now. It's well across that. Probably, I'm going to say maybe about 10 to 15 degrees past the midheaven right now, especially in your time zone. Is probably well beyond that. Probably Saturn's about to set in the west, right? But here's the thing. You can test this stuff. You don't have to take Ra's word for it. You don't have to take Harut's word for it. You don't have to take anybody's word for it. You can just go out, take a look due south, And I'm going to say right about now, between 8 o'clock, right after sunset, till about 9:15. You can go outside and look for yourself. And you'll see that Scorpio, which is denoted by a very sparkly, glittery, red, bluish star. It shifts between red and blue, but more red than blue. It really is red in the night sky if you had a good telescope, right? You can see it, and directly above, up and to the left, you'll see a bright looking star. It looks very bright, but it's not a star, it's a planet. It's the planet Jupiter. You will see it in the constellation Scorpio for yourself. In Western astrology, folks, they say it's Jupiter is in Sagittarius. When you're looking up, it's right next to the heart of the scorpion. You can see it with your naked eye. So you don't have to believe someone what they tell you. You can see these things for yourself.
Google Sky Maps.
Oh, excellent
even reflects
source.
that as well.
Excellent source. They have a
You
program called
it.
Stellarium, right? You have you can get a free program on your phone called Skyview Free. That's what you actually see me post a lot of my pictures on. I use Stellarium a lot because Stellarium, I think, is a little bit more advanced. It is a lot more advanced. But Skyview Free is on your phone. You can go to Google Play or whatever it is, your iPhone or whatever, and download that thing. And if you don't see it at night, you can see it whatever you like. You can see it through the day, the night, whatever. But if you don't have it, and some people say, and I've had a video I had out there with Nature Boy, and I ragged them on about the whole technology piece. I'm not against technology, but the technology that I use cooperates within the night sky, so they match, right? But without the technology, you can do it like the ancestors did. You can go out, take a look due south between 8 and 9:30 p.m. your respective time, and see the planets in the constellations for yourself. If you look slightly over to your left to the east, you'll see a dimmer star. It looks like a dimmer star, which is a planet, Saturn, directly in the constellation of Sagittarius when they tell you that it's in Capricorn. So this is what I'm saying, that my point is that this is why they say that astrology doesn't work. Right? It's gotten a bad rap. There's a clip that you can find on YouTube. It's an astrologer by the name of Jeffrey Armstrong. And he's a Vedic astrologer, right? There was a guy that he's a big time skeptic, right? If you give me a second, I might be able to recall the name of the actual show. It's a very old one, but it is on YouTube. In fact, I'll tell you what, folks, I'll put it up on my Kalapurusha astrology channel. That way you can go find it for yourself. So if you're ever interested, go to Kalapurusha astrology on YouTube. I'll have it there for you within 24 hours. In this particular show, right? There's a skeptic, right? And there's a couple skeptics even within the show's context, and they kind of say, "Oh, astrology doesn't work." Well, Jeffrey Armstrong had a pretty good probability rate when they actually tested the charts. They even tried to trick him in it by switching the charts between two people. Well, when they switched the charts, he did it one for one. And, of course, they said, "Oh, well, that doesn't really fit me. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that." When they flopped them back to the right person, they said it was a 90% accuracy, 88% accuracy. And the guy, the skeptic, really didn't have much to say after that. They kind of shut the show down, right? So they've shown you. I mean, there's an individual by the name of Michael Gonklin, right? Michael Gonklin, right, wrote a couple of books, right, that he himself, right, admitted that when certain particular placements were lined up, planets were lined up in certain placements. It works, right? It works. It works. I mean, he's trying to say that this sign, that sign doesn't work. Well, guess what? It wouldn't work if you're using Western astrology, right? So,
Yeah.
and again, Western astrology offers a lot. They do have some benefits, right? I'm not saying that it's all bad, but I'm saying for the most part, if you're trying to use it to get specific information, you're going to be off, right? But it does work when you're using the proper alignments and the proper tools. So I'm saying that to say, if I say your ascendant is Capricorn and it's really Sag, right? You're going to have these things that you think are you and they're not you, right? You're going to think, you're going to have reasonings and you'll impose those reasonings. Well, I thought I was this and I thought I was that. Most people don't even look at the ascendant. They really look at the sun sign and they say, oh, that's not me, this and this. So, you have all these different things that people fit into the context of what they think is reality. And it just doesn't work, right? But when you use the right combinations, the right placements, the right alignments, these things come to life. And then the theme of your life is revealed. The context of why your healing faculties don't reveal, right? If your ascendant Lord is in the 6th house, for example, right? Many times you're born you have a very competitive spirit. You can be very argumentative. If it's placed in a certain position, if it's placed, well, let's say if you're Capricorn ascendant and Saturn's in the 6th house in Gemini, right? You won't necessarily have that many health issues because Saturn and Mercury, right, which rules Gemini, Saturn and Gemini doesn't do negative. It doesn't have a negative import to it as a very supported. But you will be very competitive. You will be very argumentative. It'll be hard to hold down a marriage, right? If those particular placements may be challenged, then you may find yourself with some health issues, right? You may find yourself constantly in debt.
Yeah.
Right? Those types of things will be there, right? So, that just alone, you wonder why you have all these health issues. And let's say you take it and move it 23 degrees ahead and the planet moves slightly off. And now you're not understanding, well, I thought it was this, but you're really having these issues, right? This is why it's so important to get the time of birth, the date of birth, and the place of birth, so that when you align it properly with the right system, it works like magic.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So, with that being said, what's some of the maybe just kind of real quick, what's some things that you want to look for? You just got your chart, and the first thing you want to look at in regards to the ascendant. Mm-hmm.
Well, you want to first look at the sign. Your sign is, going to be crucial because that's going to tell you a lot about your overall disposition, and you always have to contextualize it with your genetic makeup, meaning your parents, right, and your family's dispositions. So not every Capricorn ascendant is going to be 6 feet tall, right? But what you will find is that they may be more slender, right? They may have a darker complexion than those that are of their family around them, right? They may have a slower pace or gait, right? They have a predisposition to think slower but deeper. Many things that go along with the overall disposition of a Capricorn ascendant, right? But we also have to look at all the other factors, like I mentioned, right? Where the ascendant Lord is, what house it's in, what sign it's in, if it's conjunct aspect, if it's retrograde, where the ascendant's Lord is the ascendant's Lord. The ascendant's Lord has a Lord. That you have to look at as well, right? And then, of course, blending that into the whole context of the chart, but the main thing that you want to look at is what's my ascendant? If you're a Scorpio ascendant, You're going to have a completely different disposition, right, than most other signs. Scorpios typically have less friends, right? They're more compact. They're more tucked in, right? They're well built, right? They're very well built. Like their physiology is well built, right? Because Mars is the ruler, right? But if Mars is debilitated, they still may be very well built, but they may have some different spy rules in there, right? They may take a lot more physical abuse, meaning that not as in the sense of abuse of a person abusing you, but they may be able to take more physically because that Mars is rules a sign that is has an external shell, right? So the Scorpion can take a lot of pain, right? They can take a lot of physical pressure, right? More than many of the other signs. So, you have to begin to look at, that's when you begin to understand, okay, well, my Scorpio ascendant, right, okay. Yeah, I am a little more feistier than I thought, right? I definitely got some sensitivity things going on, so I can pick up on people's thoughts and emotions fairly quickly. I do kind of undermine myself sometimes. I do have a temper at times. Those are all things that you begin to notice when that Scorpio ascendant is right on the ascendant. That Scorpio rising is very well known, right, for being no nonsense. They will get rid of you in a heartbeat, right? If you're non-essential to their life and their development, they'll drop you like a bad habit, right? You notice why? That's why this. Let's take a tidbit of it, right? Scorpio as the ascendant. Let's look at the house of friends and social networking, which is Virgo.
Yeah.
For the Scorpio ascendant. That means that they generally will deal with their social networking, right, through fault finding, right, nitpicking, right, argumentation, right, friends that bring problems, troubles, crossroads, as we say, right. That many times that's what that Scorpio ascendant will have. That's why I really don't have very many friends for the most part. They have very close, if they have friends, they're very close and few. They've been vetted, they've been tested, right? They've been put through the ringer, as they might say, right? Because Scorpio is nothing to play with, right? It's nothing to play with. It's a very potent, powerful, transformative energy. And if you're considered a friend to a Scorpio ascendant, then you definitely have gone through a few things with that individual, and you've been able to endure the process of life in their backyard, right? Because that 11th house is kind of like, that's our social network. That's who we link with. That's the type of people we like to link with, right? That's how we link. So, bar none, right? If you have that Scorpio as your ascendant, and it's not, because remember, we have to look at the 11th Lord, we have to look at many other placements as well, but take it for granted that when you have that Scorpio as an ascendant, you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar the themes of life will run the same for most of them.
Indeed.
So that's what you will want to. That's what you will want to look for, brother. Is the sign first, right?
Okay.
Oh, definitely.
All right, good deal. Now, what about the other house that's core to, looking at the ascendant? I guess we can look at it like it's complement. You give a quick tidbit on just the relationship between the first house and its complementary house, so to speak.
You must mean the 7th house.
Yeah.
So, the 7th house is the antithesis of the first, right? It's, it's whatever you were born, right? The ascendant is due east. So let's make that statement. The ascendant is due east every time. When you look out to the east, that's the ascendant. So right now, if you would look out to the east, whatever sign is on that rising or which is rising up, that's why they call it the rising, is the ascendant. East is always the ascendant. So whatever is opposite that is
Yeah.
west, right? So whatever is west is setting. One is rising, one is setting. So whatever is setting literally brings you in or down. Not to say the seventh house brings you down, but it definitely is the one that brings you your self-realization. It is the one that is there to is the equalizer, if you will, to yourself. Right? It's the one that says, hey, take a look back at your own stuff. That's what our mates do. That's what the seventh house is. Right? It's the one that says, hey, you know what? You might be Scorpio, right? And Scorpio ascendants typically do get very attractive mates because the seventh house for them is the Taurian energy. Well, let's flip it. The Taurian energy, right? Which is, if it's the ascendant, will get a Scorpion-like energy that attracts them through their first primary marriage. That means that the Taurus, because of their sedentary ways, right? Because they like to, graze in the Elysian fields, because they like the comforts of life, the stability of a good bankroll. They get mates to shatter and shake them so they learn how to maneuver and come out of that comfort zone. Right? That's what the Scorpion energy will do, because they attract a mate that is, let's just say, tumultuous. Let's say it's definitely going to bring them something to think about outside of the comforts of their little old home, car, and life. Right? So the seventh house, which is the antithesis to the first, right, gives you the thing that can offset your comfort zone or what you like to do, where you like to be, where and how and who you think you are, right? That's what the seventh house does. That's what the antithesis does. It says, look, you are this, and this is all of it is us, right? You only attract what you are in the first place, but you attract many times that which is called you to come out of that place of being without challenge, right? We really don't like challenge in our life. If we had to choose, most of us would go throughout life without challenges, right? But the mate, because they see your mess, they see everything, right? You might be the greatest person in the world, but your mate sees all your flaws and your weaknesses, right? And they're there to counterbalance those things, not only to test you, but also to support you as well. So the seventh house is crucial in that. And when you're trying to choose wisely, you want to always take these things in consideration. Now, in this astrology, the opposite is not always bad. In Western astrology, opposition with regards to someone that has a chart that's opposite or an ascendant that's opposite to yours, that's really negative in the sense of Western. But in the Eastern, it's really a good thing. You kind of want that. Because even though there might be a seesaw effect, this back and forth, this kind of like exchange, right? Then you realize very quickly the things that you're missing, and then the mate realizes the very things they're missing, and then you come to an even kill. It's like a net zero effect, so that really you help each other instead of hindering each other. Right? So yeah, definitely look at the opposite sign, because those are the things that you'll find that will call forth, right, the very thing that you'll get out of the person that you think you chose them. Really, destiny chose them for you. You just didn't understand how it was chosen. And when they bring you these set of conditions, right, then you realize very quickly, I can't run from this stuff. This is destiny, right? And that will literally test you on who you are and how well you think you're built.
Indeed. That was an excellent breakdown. So yeah, I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about the ascendant.
Oh, brother, I can go I can go, bro.
Yeah.
We could be here all night, man, just
Hmm.
talking about the dynamics between these two things, right?
Yeah.
But there's many, many, many other factors to this, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not a bad or good. It just means it's relative, right? Shadbala, if the ascendant lord is considered weak, you may have some health issues,
Yeah.
right? So, it's not just, I'm just giving you the tip so that you can get your feet wet, get your palate going. But at the same time, you see what I'm saying? These are things that have to be vetted all the way across through and through. Where's the Ascendant Lord file in the Navamsha chart? Because there's a whole another level to it when you begin to understand what is your Navamsha ascendant. All those things come into play when understanding who and what
Yeah.
you are, right? So, bar none, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think we've done a service to the people, right? To definitely give them some insights, as to what's going on as far as the ascendant is concerned. What about you, brother?
I think we did. I think we did. And, like we always say, we can cover this topic in another part. Indeed, later on down the line, maybe, focus in on one of the alternative Lagnas or, something like that as well. But I think this is a good foundation to build on, indeed. So I guess, yeah, we can go ahead and table it right there. What you think?
We're good.
Good. All right. So, before we get out of here, I wanted to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group and Kalapurusha Astrology. Go follow us on social media. Get it with us on Instagram. Hit up Brother Rob for them consultations and to get in on the classes he got. I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it. Indeed. If you hadn't checked out the other shows, make sure you go back, check out the other shows, and hit us up. Give us some suggestions, some different shows you want to hear and stuff like that. We do hear them, we listen, and we try to incorporate them in the schedule. If it fits, kind of our kind of the mission of what we're doing with this show and whatnot. Before we get out of here, you got any parting words?
Brother, not particularly. I did make a post recently on the sun conjuncting Saturn. I mean, sun conjuncting Mars today, and this effect will last for the next few days. It is combust. Mars is combust, and this definitely can create a lot of tension, a lot of frustration, a lot of angst in many people's lives. The good thing is that's in Leo, and so it's not so angry or frustrated with regards to this combustion because it's in a sign where the sun actually has a rule, right? And Mars is not so disproportionately weakened because it's in a fiery sign as well. And Mars likes to be in fiery signs. It likes to be in Leo. It's friends with the sun. So, it's not as bad as it would normally be, but you also will notice that people will definitely be on edge. People will definitely take shortcuts, right? People will definitely take they'll be in the fast lane, if you know what I mean, right? And so don't go in the fast lane, right? If you got to get in the fast lane, get in, get out, and be very mindful, careful, and conscientious of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Be aware of your surroundings, right? Be aware of things that may cause you to lose your temper. Be conscientious of where you're going in light of large crowds, right? Because large crowds, when people bump, especially back east, people bump each other, step on your shoe, or you step on somebody's shoe inadvertently, and then here you go, you got a whole, I mean, look at the whole Popeyes thing, right? I mean, people are nutting up
Over some chicken.
I mean, if you do that kind of thing, if you go to Popeyes, it's packed. Remember that sun is conjunct Mars, right? You want to be a little careful,
Yeah.
right? I hope most of our followers aren't going to Popeyes chicken, but if you do, just be a little careful. But for all intents and purposes, it'll last. Keep your eye out and look out for those types of things that come your way because they're, one little word in this science goes a long way. As we learn, the ascendant or Lagna right? It has a lot of imports to it than just the sign that's in your first house. So with that said, brother, I would say I think we're good. What about you?
Think you said it best, man. Think you locked it in and whatnot. So we thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back same time, same place next week for the next episode. And like I said, give us your feedback, and we look forward to getting this next show out. All right. So everybody be well. Take heed to what Brother Roger said about that combustion, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.